Mekka, Dawg, Buckeye Nation. It's time.
D-Bucks, you beat me.
Buckle up, buckle up. We going for a ride. Knuckle up, knuckle up. It's time for a fight. Buckle up, buckle up. This time it's mine. Buckle up, buckle up. Oh, we outside. Going to the top. Going to the top. Going to the top. Going to the top. Going to the
Oh, wow. I'm about ready to fall out of my seat, but you know what? I need to buckle up. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the best doggone podcast in the land with Ethan and Heather. And tonight, our fantastic guest is Mekka Don, the one and only. Thank you so much for joining us. We are part of the Fanatical Elves Network, a subsidiary of Fans First Sports Network. Mekka Don, thank you for being here. Really appreciate the time.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. This is a pleasure. I am so glad that you responded to my inquiries and just talking to you throughout your process of working on your documentary. And I, as you were looking, you're getting sponsorship and backing. And I'm just so glad you're here. I read your book. I watched the documentary. It's fantastic. And it's just amazing to have you here.
Thank you, guys. Well, I am a Buckeyes fan, obviously, and a Browns fan. So I think I fit right in.
You do. You fit right in. So we have the highs and the lows with being a Buckeye fan and being a Browns fan. So we know. So thank you again for joining us. It really is. Yes, Mike, let's go. It's really buckle up for the show, because for those of you who don't know, you should know who Mekka Don is, especially if you followed me. I've had my buckle up shirt since it came out. I've tweeted about you a couple times. Just so if you don't know, Mekka is an OSU grad. He is an OSU player, ex-player. You're never an ex-player, right? You're always a part of the team. He is a dad. He is an attorney. He is a rapper. He's an entrepreneur. He's an author. He's a documentarian. I mean, Mekka, what is it that you don't do right now? So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you're into right now, because right now you got some really big stuff.
Yeah, I got a few things going on. I think, first of all, thanks for that intro. And, I think, I'm the youngest of four kids in the family. And I think sometimes the youngest kind of, has a little bit more freedom to try stuff and do stuff. And, so you'll see a lot of times the youngest kind of be a little bit more free. And so I think that is part of my story in terms of me just exploring, trying different things and giving different things a go and not really being scared, right? And so I think that's just kind of how I've always lived my life. Last year I was fortunate enough to, write the song "Buckle Up," which became, an anthem for the team that they ran out to every game. And I had a sense as the song, was being released that it was going to kind of be big, especially once the season, once the camp started and Ohio State football's Ethan Miller put out the video and helped me create that video. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be big. And then, so I realized, this is something I want to capture. I want to capture this season. I want to capture kind of Buckle Up and the season and how it does throughout the season. And so I was fortunate enough to get a team together, and we decided that we were going to shoot a documentary kind of on the season and how, Buckle Up kind of emerged. And it was just amazing. I mean, even 2 days before the season even started, I performed it, and Shelly Meyer was there, and she saw it. And she was like, "Oh, this is going to be the song that leads us all the way." And so it was just amazing. So we were able to capture all that, capture, the highs and lows of the season. Obviously, capture kind of the Buckle Up movement. I ended up performing it on Fox Kids during kickoff, which was a huge deal considering the type of artists that they bring on there. And it became a PSA with sheriffs around the state of Ohio with Buckle Up PSA. And as it played at Crew games and Blue Jackets games, and it just became a huge thing. And so we were so fortunate enough to kind of document that. And we said, look, we're going to shoot a documentary, whether we win or we don't win, we're still going to capture this moment. And the fact that we actually went on and won the title, oh my gosh, that's like icing on the cake. Is like most magical experience ever. And so we were able to document that, and then obviously get some players in the documentary as well, Denzel Burke and Lathan Ransom. Then we got Curtis Grant from the 2014 team when I did the song Juice. So we had, just so many connecting points, and then obviously we won the national title. So I was able to put out that documentary, as Ethan kind of mentioned earlier, Buckle Up, the Soundtrack of Champions, which pretty much documented kind of the season in my life journey in a lot of ways too. Um, and that was just amazing. We had great sponsorship for that. We had great premiere event at Gateway Film Center in Columbus. A lot of former and current players came, coaches, celebrities. It was really nice. And then on the heels of that, I also released my book, Buckle Up, the Playbook: 5 Winning Plays for Go Getters, and that was really just a book that kind of documented some of the stuff that people knew about me, and some people didn't know about my journey, and kind of what it took to kind of get to the places that I've gotten to, and tips that have helped me along the way. Gene Smith was the one that did the forward for that book, so I was really lucky for that too. And so yeah, those are both released in June. So it's been a pretty busy summer so far, but those are the things I've been working on.
Yeah. Go ahead, Heather. Sorry about that.
I was gonna say. So I think for me, the buckle up is such an ambiguous but meaningful saying, because it really can mean anything to anybody. And I think at the beginning of the year, we were all, as fans, we all expected to win the national championship, right? We were all hyped. I mean, this team was built for now. We had the best defense in the country, and we knew that going into this season. So I think at the beginning of the season, for me, the buckle up movement was, all right, let's buckle up and do this. This is our destiny. We've got this. So then we lose to Oregon, and it kind of changes to almost okay, now we have to buckle down. We were buckling up. We were up here, and now we have to buckle down, and we have to rebuild that. And then there was the last game of the year that we don't like to talk about. But in a sense, that was the true buckle up movement. Because I really, truly feel that if it hadn't been for that loss, I don't think we would have been as outstanding and unstoppable in the playoffs as we were. So there's this arc with the buckle up that you can really use it as motivation to whatever it is that you're going through. If it's something good, buckle up. Let's have this. It's fun. Let's enjoy the ride. And then if you're down, buckle up, buckle down. We've really got to change the trajectory, and we've got to really make our destiny. So I think that this is such a universal saying, which is why I think it has resonated with people so hard, because it's been so popular. People know the words. You play the song and people are like, buckle up, we know, we sing. I went to a couple of games last year. People were dancing. God love you. Even my dad was like, hey, this is pretty good. And my dad's 70 years old, and he liked it. So I think it's so universal.
Yeah, well, first of all, I need to hire you on my PR team. Gosh, you really hit the nail on the head.
I would love to.
Yeah, and I think that was it. I mean, first of all, let me be clear. I'm not the first person to ever say buckle up, right? But I think giving it this meaning, right, and kind of seeing how people have adopted it to mean whatever they wanted it to mean. I think you're spot on with that. I think one of the things that was kind of just important to always remember when you talk about even the idea of buckling up is that the ride may be bumpy. It may not be smooth. It may not be exactly how you want it to go. And that is honestly why we buckle up. And that's kind of really, like you said, the arc of the season, the arc of my life, right? There's a lot of buckling up, right? There's a lot of moments where you thought, this is going to be it. And then you hit a crash, but that crash doesn't necessarily mean,
Time out. Yeah. Life has other plans.
For sure. And so it doesn't mean that it's over though, right? And so that's one of the things I really, really enjoyed about this team, and why I, resonated with them so much, even just as a fan. And also why the documentary was so special to me, because as I'm telling my story and telling their stories, it's like I'm telling two parallel stories that both kind of, went along the same trajectory, because if you look at, situations in my career, there are times when I was like, what am I doing? This isn't going to work. People making fun of you, you're losing, whatever it is. And then you have to just decide, like, look, no, I believe in myself. I have faith. Faith is a big thing. And I'm gonna buckle up, and I'm gonna push, the pedal to the metal. And so it's just amazing that I was able to kind of capture that this year, with a team that I actually also resonated with on a personal level. I'm friends with a lot of guys on the team that just left, but also guys that are still there. So it's just it was like a moment, my God, pretty much.
And I mean, honestly, could you have scripted it any better that
Yeah.
you did this the year that we dominated? And I say we, like I'm not on the couch calling plays, right? But we dominated, and it was just so exciting to watch that arc, and for you to be a part of that, and really to be an integral part of it, because we lose sight of the fact that they're kids in that locker room. They're kids.
Mhm.
They're, Jeremiah Smith is arguably, not arguably, he's the best wide receiver, probably the best player in college football, and he was a child. He was 18 years old. So to have somebody in the locker room like you, like having those presence where they can relate
Yeah.
to people, and it's just really important. So you have that message. And even I don't want to dominate this conversation, but I have I've got a lot. So Mekka, kind of going back to what you were talking about with your journey, really, and I don't want to oversell this, but I don't want to undersell this, because your story and your parents' story is really what the American dream is. You're the son of, you're the youngest of four. Your parents are Nigerian. They wanted the best for you, and that's why they're here. That's why they came, and you did everything that you're supposed to do. You took advantage of every single opportunity, and you preach equality and inclusion, and you are the reason why it's so important, because look at your trajectory. I don't think a lot of people know. You're an attorney. You passed the bar. You actually were a practicing attorney, and you don't do that by accident. That's not an easy journey. You went to Ohio State on a full ride academic scholarship, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. And that's a great point. My parents, I guess they came here from Nigeria in the 70s. They both came here on academic scholarship to Ohio State. And
Right.
that was just, my dad got here with a suitcase and that's it. No real money, didn't really know anybody. And I think my mom came like a year later. And then we just fought hard, right? Built their dream, worked for their dream. My parents were perennial students. They have 10 degrees between the two of them. They just, that's all they knew was education, right? And then they had kids and they raised us and worked hard to, try to make sure that we had quality education and quality experiences. You know, and I obviously bought into that, right? Going to school. I graduated high school. I was, one of the top of my class. I graduated 3 years from Ohio State, a cum laude at Ohio State, went to law school at NYU,
Yeah.
passed the bar, worked at one of the top 10 law firms in the world. So from an academic standpoint, I bought into it. And it wasn't just that they wanted it for me, they also instilled it in us to where we wanted it for ourselves. My brother and sisters are all doctors and lawyers, and not that, you know, my parents necessarily forced us to do that, but it's just kind of like that's,
The natural progression, right? Yeah.
the natural progression. It's like seeing Arch
Yeah.
Manning. And I'm like, oh my
Well-
gosh, surprise. You know what I mean? It's like
Exactly.
that's how it goes. So that's been an amazing part of the journey. But what I also have realized over time, and again, being the youngest gives you a lot of times a different perspective, is that their education is important, but there are other things out there too. And I've even helped my parents and other family members realize some of those things along the way too, as I've pursued my dreams and my passions. And again, I think my story, as you mentioned, I think it's important. The distinction is I didn't drop out and then go, which is not, if you did that, that's fine. But my story is someone like you said who went and passed the bar and worked at a firm, and then said, you know what, I need to go for my dream now. And that I've never looked back at that decision one time and said, oh man, why did I make that decision? Not one day. And the life that I've been able to live, people I've been able to meet, people I've been able to influence, people have been able to influence me as a result of that decision. I mean, that was in God's hands, and so I'm just very grateful for it.
I think regret's a phenomenal waste of emotion, because you can't go back and change it. All you can do is take what you wish you had done different and do it different in the future. I think regret is just a phenomenal waste, because there's more room for us to have more positive emotion. That you can take that regret and turn it into something good. So that's a
And
great way to look at it.
interestingly enough, and I'm going to piggyback that a little bit, but maybe flip it on its head as well. I also am very motivated by regret. All the older people that I've talked to,
Right.
There's no pain that they feel worse than regret. That's the one thing that they always say. It's like, man, go for your thing, go for yours. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And so that feeling of not trying to have that feeling has also motivated me to make sure that I
Yeah.
go for the thing. And that way, if I don't get it, I can come back and say, hey, I tried, it didn't work. But that feels much better than just saying you didn't try at all.
Right. Because I got a great experience out of it. I got a great memory out of it. So,
Yeah.
how do you think that your parents then inspired your love of academics, but then it also spilled over? Obviously, you love sports. Obviously, you love to play the game. You're a student of the game. So how did that influence you with that? Did your parents encourage you to do the extracurriculars? Or were you just kind of, hey, whatever you want to do, try it?
Well, initially, I think, my parents got here, they didn't really know much about, American football, number
No.
one.
No.
Nigeria is obviously a big soccer country, so
Correct.
soccer
Yep.
was my first sport, my first love. But all my siblings played sports, and I think that was just by being in this society, and in Ohio, growing up in Ohio, it's sports
Oh,
are just what we do,
It's
right?
different. It's
yeah,
different in
especially in
Ohio.
Columbus. Yeah.
It really is. It really is different. And so,
Yeah.
so I think that was just kind of naturally what we did. And both my parents were athletic. They both, I think, ran track. And my dad played soccer. And so we all had, pretty athletic genes. And so we were all, pretty athletic. So I think that was part of it. I think by the time I was born, my parents were a little bit more lax kind of on the
You were the
extracurriculars.
fourth. Right.
Yeah, the older siblings are about like the academics. And yes, they supported it, sports and extracurriculars to a certain degree, but not, not like that. But by the time I got there, I think, and things loosened up by the time that I was born, and they definitely supported it. And I think the most important thing was, so long as we could balance it correctly, I think that they didn't have a problem. So I was still coming home with A's. And I think that's at the end of the day, that mattered more than anything else, So yeah, I was fortunate. I think I was fortunate to be born fourth, but also I held my own. Yeah.
Right. We're like, you know what? We've kept 3 alive. They're thriving. We got this.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, right. You let your older siblings make the mistakes in front of you. You watch them and you learn. I mean, in all honesty and not jokingly, you watch what they do, and they're going to do things that you can model yourself after in terms of like, I'm going to do this. I love what they're doing, and they succeed in this. Or you see them fail, and you're like, wait a second, maybe this is a misstep. It's like my wife, she talks about she's the youngest of 3. She talks about her older brothers and the stupid things they would do, and how, her dad would say to her, if your mom's asking the question, she already knows the answer. So you kind of learn from those things. And
Yeah.
I've got an older brother, and I've certainly learned a lot from him. As I told you, Mekka, he's now vice president of the Ohio Educators Association down in Columbus. So I'm going to work on getting your book, there. We need to get you a speaker, speaking to them because it is inspirational.
I'll do it. I'll
lobby for it.
I'll lobby for you.
Absolutely.
I'm persistent.
So first of all, as you can see, you might see in my background, I do have the soccer jersey. I've got the old Tottenham jersey. My dad is from England, so I've got soccer in my blood. Are you excited for the World Cup?
I am excited for the World Cup, man. It's interesting. When I was growing up, I was a big soccer player. A lot of people don't know that. I didn't play football until my senior year of high school. So soccer was my sport. I was club soccer. I played high school soccer, varsity soccer, won state championship. That was my sport. So soccer was what I watched growing up. Obviously, I watched football too, Ohio State football, especially in NFL. But I mean, I watched a lot of soccer as well. So, it's not something that's ever left me as something that I enjoy. And so, World Cup has always been one of the most exciting events this period, because literally you have the whole world involved, and it means so much to so many different people and so many different great players. So, and then the fact that it's, coming here, I mean,
I remember back in was it 92 when it came? I'm trying to get all my years straight. I think it was either 92 or must have been 94, because I was a freshman in high school. I'm old, but I mean, when they won and they beat Colombia in a game that was sad what happened, but it was exciting. And then to see the Women's World Cup and Brandy Chastain, I mean, just phenomenal.
99. I was in the hospital. I had mono, and I watched every second of every single game because I was in the hospital for a while. And I just remember I didn't even know anything about soccer, really. I was a senior. I had just graduated, and I was so pumped. You just feel like this immense, pride, because you're watching the world's best athletes. I think the thing that with America our best athletes play other sports. They play football, they play basketball. The world's best athletes are playing soccer. So it's so fun to watch.
It's so true. It's so true. And right now, and you're right, but I think one of the things that's also been pretty cool is just even like following the crew and MLS and just kind of even the
Yeah.
youth, you're starting to see a lot more of our, a lot more top athletes decide to play soccer. I mean, it's still not obviously on par with basketball and football, but we have enough quality athletes here to really make a run at this thing if we can if we can start taking it seriously, which we're starting to nationally. So I think that's been pretty fun to watch also.
Right.
Yeah, what was it, the CONCACAF that you said
CONCACAF.
that I just watched? Yeah, I just watched all of that, and I'm like, why am I watching soccer and loving this? This is so exciting.
Yeah, the energy, the chant,
Yeah.
it has kind of its own ecosystem. I think it's pretty cool. So it's soccer is its own thing. I understand why people who growing up, people used to make fun of people who play soccer a little bit, like especially football players. They were always like making fun of us, but I think the sport has grown a lot more, and people are starting to appreciate it a lot more. So yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
so. And the fact that it's just so much more accessible now than it used to be in the past with all the different streaming services and cable networks, et cetera, et cetera. And just a comment here, Mike, he's over in the UK. This guy is a diehard Cleveland and Ohio State fan.
Hey, what's up,
Mike?
And so he's talking about the weather delays, the potential weather delays during the World Cup there. But you played soccer in high school, and then how did you end up playing at Ohio State? For those who may not know, share with how you ended up being an Ohio State Buckeye football player.
It's the craziest story, man. I swear. Like, it just really makes you believe that what's destined for you is destined for you, right? So, like I said, I played soccer my whole life. My junior year, I started growing. I played varsity soccer. We won the state championship that year, and I was growing kind of at a rapid rate. And I ended up developing something in my knees, both of my knees, called Osgood-Schlatter, which is like a growth kind of disorder. So I could still run and cut, but I couldn't kick without inflammation. And so it was like, okay, this is weird. What do I do now? I played soccer since I was 4 years old, and my gym teacher, PE teacher, since my freshman year in high school, his name was Coach Bob Jacoby, who's a legendary coach at St. Francis de Sales High School where I went, and he been trying to get me to play football pretty much since I stepped foot on campus. And so finally he was like, hey, just come play, just come try out. And they won the states in football that year as well. My junior year, the same year we had won in soccer. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess I had nothing to lose. So I convinced my parents who were a little skeptical, right? Because they just thought football is a very brutal sport, which it is. And and I was able to convince them. And so I went out and I made the team and started at wide receiver. And what was amazing for me and what was just a blessing was that our team, again, like I said, we had just won the state championship the year before. And so we had so many talented players on our team. And then we ended up winning the state championship that year. And what was amazing about that was that, we had so many talented players. So scouts were coming to games. We had extra games for the playoffs. And the scouts were coming not to watch me, but they're like, watching all these other players. Our whole offensive line went Division I. Our quarterback went Division I. Like we were nasty, right? And so, they would come to the games, scouts, and they'd be like, wait, who's that fast wide receiver out there, right? And, I was always fast. So that was kind of what helped me stand out. And that's how I kind of started to get a little bit of buzz about myself in football that season. And I had no thoughts in the world when I started that season that I was going to end up even playing in college. It was just kind of something fun to do my senior year and to not be kind of left out. And then as the season started to progress, I started realizing that maybe there's an opportunity to play somewhere small or D3 or D2. And then I got an Ivy League offer. Then I got some small MAC schools that were interested. And then my uncle ended up sending my tape to the Ohio State recruiting coordinator. Next thing you know, I'm invited to come play for a walk-on. And that blew my mind because that was not even something that was even remotely possible that could happen. And what made it even more special is, Heather, you mentioned earlier that I already had an academic scholarship to Ohio State. So it's like, oh my gosh, I'm literally about to go to Ohio State for free and play football. And I don't have to try out. And this is the craziest thing ever. And so Gary Berry, who was a senior when I was a freshman at DeSales, Luke Fickle also went to my high school as well. So I was friends with Gary. So I reached out to Gary because he was still at Ohio State. And I just, asked him, like, what do you think about this? And he was like, listen, man, this is going to be one of the hardest things you do. And he's like, especially as a walk on, he was like, I'm just telling you, it's going to be hard. But he was like, but it's a great opportunity. It's a brotherhood at the end of the day. And, so you have nothing to lose. And so obviously I accepted, I could have gone to some other schools and stuff like that, but I was like, no, this is it. So that's literally how my journey to Ohio State football. It is the craziest road ever. And it was when I got there, I was still learning the sport. You know what I mean? I didn't know, I still didn't understand all the terminology and the coverages and all that type of stuff. So I was very, very raw, but it was an experience of a lifetime.
Yeah. So you were there under Coach Cooper, correct?
Yes. Came in under Coach Cooper, and I came in. So my class was Mike Doss's class. Mike Doss, Matt Wilhelm.
McKinley.
Yeah. Yep. Craig Krenzel. That was my class.
Yeah,
So,
listen, I love you, but Mike Doss is hands down. If anybody asked me who my favorite player ever to play for Ohio State, it was him.
I love it.
Hands
I
down.
understand.
Hands down. Like, there wasn't even anybody else that ever comes to mind because, my God, was he just the talent? I don't know. And I think it was probably because it was always I loved football, right? I always loved football, but you don't appreciate it when you're younger, I don't think. And as I started to get a little bit older and my dad could take me without whining to games and watch games. And I had, because I had the attendance span of a carrot. So I could watch these games. And so that was when I really started to get into it. And so
Mike was so it was interesting because just a quick story on Mike. So he was one of the few guys that you knew right away that he was going to be special. I mean, we started camp August 4th, and by August 5th, you knew Mike Doss was going to be special, and again, you're talking about a team full of veterans and, guys that are going to NFL and stuff like that. And he had that it factor, leadership quality. He was a football player. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. And it was just, you could see it right away. And Mike was the type of guy that, made a name for himself early. I mean, guys were scared of Mike, coming across the middle in practice. I'm talking about practice. I'm not even talking about the games, as a freshman. Mike was a hitter and he had a nose for the football. He was so talented, had a high football IQ. And that was early on. We could see it. So it didn't surprise me at all that he turned into be the player that he turned into be and the leader that he turned into be. And obviously what he's even still doing in the community. I mean, Mike was just, one of those guys that we knew was special right away.
Yeah, it was just so good. I think that team was just so complete. And that was probably they were the Indians at the time. The Cleveland Indians were my first real taste of disappointment in the 90s, but we just had, such, and I know you guys had such high expectations for yourself, but do you feel like that kind of taught you a lot too? Because you just talking about your journey, you were 18 years old and you chose the hardest path you possibly could for yourself. You didn't take that D3. You didn't take that I'm just going to go to school to get an education. Like, that's not hard enough. You said, I'm going to go to an elite school, I'm going to get a top tier education, and I'm going to be a walk-on. So you chose that hard path. And then going through some of the hard times on the team, do you think that helped shape you a little bit more into who you are?
Yeah, I think I tell people this a lot, that my freshman year in college was probably the most pivotal year for me in my life in terms of just learning how the world works, right? Understanding, capitalism. For example, I'll give you a quick example. I used to do, and I haven't really told this story that many times, but I used to do like little modeling commercials locally in Columbus when I was growing up, like when I was in high school. And when I got to Ohio State, one of the first weeks we had this compliance forms that we had to fill out. And one of the questions that they asked us was, do you do any like endorsements or stuff like that? And we had to disclose it. I had to disclose that, I'd done these commercials, and I was told that I couldn't do them anymore because it was against the NCAA rules. And again, this is something I've been doing since I was 13, And so I remember that the feeling I had, like, wow, okay, this is interesting. This is what this is, right? This is what college football is, right? And then obviously all the compliance, all the rules, all the eligibility. Then you start to see the ecosystem around college sports, right? The infrastructure, the stadium, the money that's put in, sponsors, the boosters, the this. You start to say, wow, okay. And then you start to realize, like more granularly, kind of the importance of team and teamwork and role, right? And everybody's role is important. Whether you're the starting quarterback, obviously is the most important role theoretically. But even if you're the last guy on the team to walk on, your job is really to go into practice and make people better. My job in practice, I knew I wasn't going to play, right? But I knew that I still had a job to go into practice, work hard, and make Ahmed Plummer better, or Kenyon Rambo better, or whoever it was. That was my job, and so I took that seriously, and I think those guys respected me, and everybody else who was in my situation respected me for it. So those years were so important in terms of just developing toughness, understanding. Right, we're all used to kind of being the man. I'll tell you guys one other quick story. We had and Coach Kennedy was our strength and conditioning coach, and we had three rules in the locker room. And the first rule was you're not allowed to chew gum. The second rule was that you're not allowed to yawn. And the third rule was that you're not allowed to talk about high school. And the reason for that third rule was because he said, listen, all of you guys were stars and all state and all this and all that in high school. We don't care here. That doesn't matter here. Only thing that matters here is what you do here. And that set the tone for us in terms of how we thought about this and how we understood. And it was hard for guys, even guys, because guys came in, super talented, highly touted, state champion, this, that, and then they come in and now they're fighting to even get on specialty, And so it was, I think, this is a long answer. Sorry, Heather, but
Oh no, this is great. This is great.
We
Yeah.
love it. This is perfect.
Yeah. That's why I asked, because I like these stories. These are,
Yeah.
I mean, it humanizes us, right?
For sure. And that's
Yeah.
part of what literally humanized us, as well, is that there was, yes, we were, to the outside world, we may be looked at as, oh my God, Ohio State football player, blah, blah. But, internally, we're fighting our own battles and we're still trying to make it within ourselves. We're still trying to find our roles and find our meaning, our understanding, our purpose, and then also contribute to the brotherhood. And so I look back at that year. I only played for, for one season and then spring. And then, that was it, because I graduated in 3 years from Ohio State. I had a lot of academic responsibilities. It was hard to keep up. But just even that short time period, I just learned so much about myself and so much about life that I've carried with me, pretty much indefinitely.
It's incredible. Your story is just absolutely incredible. Like, I don't normally read, but your book was fantastic. I can't state it enough, folks. You need to go out and you need to get Mekka Don's book. It is just amazing. It's an inspirational. It's a quick read, and it gets to the point, succinct. It's unlike me. It's not overly wordy. It's unlike me. Now, let me ask you.
I want to piggyback. We'll talk about. I want to piggyback, Ethan, because I actually have a question. I might be putting you on the spot, but you had talked about something about how you were not allowed to continue your money making. You weren't allowed to continue your modeling, your endorsements. How do you feel about the current landscape of football today, where if you had played today, you'd be able to do all that and more? So what are your thoughts on NIL? I'm here and I'm here and I'm here because you see players who have never played a single snap under center that are coming in at 17, 18 years old. And I don't want to mention the team. I'm just saying one team that we don't like brought in a quarterback for like $10 million. And I don't know how I feel about that. I feel that the college players should absolutely be making money. They should absolutely be making money off their likeness. They should be allowed to make a living. But it's turning into a circus.
So I think first of all, the very first thing I'm going to say is blame the adult. Let's never, ever.
No, I would take it.
And I know, right. And so I'm just saying, in terms of, and not even just that, I'm saying in terms of where we are in the sport and how we got here, right? Because I think that for a long time, anybody who was being reasonable realized that there should probably have been some type of compensation structure for these athletes outside of the scholarship, right? And I think that had we, collectively, or the people in powers that be, had kind of come to that stopped being greedy really and stopped trying to be oppressive in some ways and had kind of come to that understanding earlier, we could have gotten to maybe even an Olympic model, right, of compensation, some type of structure where people would have said, okay, this makes sense, right? Double A model, triple A model, something where it didn't have to kind of get here. But because they didn't do that, and because they didn't, have plans in place to anticipate that court ruling that came out a few years ago in June, um, it's just become the wild, wild west. And so the problem I have though is that I feel like a lot of people are now like villainizing the kids when really that's not who should be villainized at all in this situation. The adults, it's the people who had control, who have control. And now this thing is just it's 1 week it's this, next week it's this. There's limits here, and then there's not limits. It's like it's crazy. So in terms of what do I think should happen, I mean, yes, I think kids should definitely be compensated. It's unfortunate that college football has turned into such it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? I mean, you have programs valued, just the football program valued at $1 billion. So it's hard to now say, okay, well, those kids should be paid like amateurs when a program is valued at $1 billion. It's just hard to say that. It's hard to even say they should be paid like semi-pros or double A. I mean, how many people go to a double A baseball game as great as the players as they are, So there's a capitalist ecosystem here that we've accepted, right, in terms of how people are compensated, particularly in free market capitalism. And a lot of places are a lot of areas within capitalism are very unchecked. So it just seems unfair that this one would be checked. The reason why the guy that you mentioned up to the team up north is getting 10 million or 12 million is because that's the value that he brings. It's not even, and that doesn't even capture, honestly, probably a tenth of the value that he actually really brings to that university, that program. And it's not even just about what he does on the field, right? It's also endorsements, it's sponsorships, it's all kinds of other things that now hype what that does for the university. There are other departments of the university that benefit when the football program is doing well or the basketball program is doing well. How do you put a value on what that is, right? So again, I think to kind of put a bow on this, I think, yes, there needs to be some structure. I think there needs to be a clear understanding. Everybody has to understand what the rules are. But in terms of whether or not they should be compensated well, I believe they should, and not just do NIL. I think, we're starting to see revenue shares, stuff like that coming. I think all of that's all fair game. I think the only thing is that we just need some parameters that everybody agrees on.
Yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to explore on, because I last year, that's how I got my start. I love college football. I live for it. It's a religion. It's a second religion, right? It's life. And one of the things that, because NIL is relatively new this year, and do you think that we're going to start to see better product on the NFL field? Because these kids don't have to leave college early now to make a living and support themselves. So we just did a show on Tuesday, I think it was, about top offensive tackle prospects. And there were like 3 or 4 in there that had come back for their senior year, and they didn't have to because they're getting paid. So they're developing more, they're learning more, they're maturing still. So do you think we're going to start to see a bit of better product on Sundays because these kids have a little bit more time to develop?
I think that, yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I actually haven't thought about that, too much. I think my first instinct is to say yes, because of what you mentioned. But the second thing that I wonder about, and again, I don't want to say worry, but I wonder is the flip side of that is, part of the motivation for the grind and the energy, effort, and the hard work was to get to that payday, right?
Yeah.
So if you get it at 18, 7, human nature, and I'm not knocking the kid.
No.
But get it at 17, 18, 19. Will we see guys flame out that we may not have that we would have ordinarily not see flame out, right? Because they're already, they're not as incentivized as they normally would have. I don't know if that's going to be true too. So I think we'll probably, I think we'll see both things happen. I think we'll see, like you said, guys stay their 5th year, 6th year if they can, stay, get developed, go in and be ready to play. But I also think that we'll probably see some people flame out, or get caught up, and it's hard to recover at that age, if you're 17, 18, it's hard to recover. And once you get kicked out of a school or once you get a reputation, it's hard to recover and get back. Yeah.
You risk injury as well. You have you risk that every time you step on the field. You know that. I mean, you see these players anymore. Achilles injuries seem to be a lot more. I'm in mourning. Martin Emerson.
I know. That's just so sad. And I always feel so sad. Speaking of that real quick, I always feel so sad. Like, going into camp, every camp I always like just pray that just for, good health. And, it's not going to be realistic that nobody's going to get injured, but just how hard these guys work. And that's one of the things that why I'm always like pro player and really defending players a lot. People don't really see how hard these guys work in the off season. To get themselves in shape and get ready, and this is their dream. And the even if you play for a quote unquote long time, you're still going to be 35, 40 when you retire. Yeah. And so like the window is short. Every season you miss, is a season lost that you're probably not going to get back. Not to mention how quickly people will throw you aside or can throw you aside in sports. You know what I mean? And especially when you're injured and just say, okay, well, and we've seen it happen to great ones. So I'm always so sad for those guys when that happens. And, I think people need to really have an appreciation for what these guys put in and what they put their bodies through. And when you see something like that happen,
Yeah, I wonder at some point, I have a discussion with some friends of mine who think that everything new is terrible and older was better. Basketball, football, everything older is better, the way they did it back then. But my thought is this, or my question is this, about the training that all these guys are doing and the frequency of the Achilles injury. Is it because they are getting too much mass? Have they been playing so long? I mean, this thing is snapping. It can only take so much. So are people pushing it just a little bit too far? And I don't know the physiology.
Yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't think I know the answer. No, I'm just saying, I mean, as far as like, I wonder what as kind of a sports doctor would say, or people who've done the research. I don't know enough to be honest, to answer that question. But I do know that guys are definitely training harder than ever before.
Yes, absolutely.
And also, we talked about this before too. Like, you got guys like when I was coming into college, if you ran like a 4.5,
right,
you were considered very fast, right? And that's still fast. But now you got guys like defensive linemen and linebackers running 4.5, And so it's like the guys are getting bigger and stronger and faster, and who you're playing against are also getting bigger and stronger and faster. And so that also shapes the way that we train. And I imagine that guys are pushing themselves to the limit even more than they were before. Obviously when that happens, you probably put yourself in more risk for injury. I don't know, like you said, the physiology. I wouldn't know, but yeah, guys are pushing themselves. And then also, I think Mike mentioned this contract year. That's another thing too. So guys are like going super hard. And then in football, guys are just, you're constantly fighting for a spot. So it's you don't have the luxury to kind of just relax and just, it's a very insecure job. People don't realize that about NFL football, how insecure of a job it is, because you don't realize, first of all, you can be traded, anytime, right? And you can be cut anytime, and contracts aren't guaranteed for the most part. And unless you're like the star quarterback or the star player on the team, it's a very insecure thing. I've had guys, friends that played on 3 or 4 different teams in the same season, and it's like, you got to move. What do you do with your family? Do you move your family every time? Do you, so there's a lot of that too. And guys are definitely pushing themselves hard.
Yeah. I think that we lose the element because it's entertainment, right? We're watching it. It's entertainment. I think we lose sight of the fact that these are people. These are human beings. It doesn't matter how much money they're making. It doesn't matter how much they're not making. They're human beings. And we like to treat them, I don't know. I think we lose a little bit of our humanity when we're watching them, especially, and I love fantasy football. I'm a fantasy football junkie, but I think fantasy football has wrecked a lot too, because Come on. So he didn't
Now
catch
there's-
that extra 5 yards. Like, so you're gonna give him a death threat? Like, get a life. Like, you're insane. You're insane. So I think that we lose a lot of our humanity in the fact that these are real people playing a very violent sport. Football, like it or not, as much as the safety precautions, it's still a very violent sport.
Well, I think the other thing too, and people don't talk about this a lot, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but I think there's also there's a jealousy that there are a lot of fans that are actually jealous and without realizing it. And I hate to say that word,
Yes.
and not necessarily jealous in the sense like jealous in the sense of like these guys, anyone who's making millions of dollars, right? They just yes, and they're not, right?
Yeah.
And so there's kind of like there's a frustration that's there, and
Yeah.
just a lack of like, oh, I don't care what happens to you, you're making $1 million, so or whatever it is. So like deal with it, right? I would deal with it if it was me. I would deal with it. What's the big deal? And I get that to a certain degree, and I'm not saying that I wish people would humanize them more, but I think if we're being honest, it makes sense to a certain degree because at the end of the day, first of all, the society values money more than anything else. And if when you have money, you feel like a lot of your problems go away, and you have access to a lot of things, and you can eat places, and you can travel, and you can do a lot of things. And when you're struggling, or if you're just not necessarily rich, I think that life is hard, and so nobody wants to hear about your problems of millionaires. They just don't. It doesn't matter what they
It's
are,
true too.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. And I think so. I've actually had to just take a step back myself and come to try to come to grips with what the reality is, right? Because I used to get so frustrated with people just not humanizing players. And they're like, nah, they have everything. They got the glory. They get the girls. They get the this. They get the that. You know what I mean? It's like they don't, and
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Heather. I just want to pause for just a moment, and we're going to take just a few second break here to hear a word from our sponsors. And also, Mekka, you're a music guy, and if you're in the Stark County area, you know where you need to go for all your car stereo needs and auto solutions. You need to go to Horizon Audio. My high school classmate friend, he has owned all 3 stores since 2016. There are 3 convenient locations in North Canton on Whipple Avenue, in Canton on Tuscarawas Street, or in Alliance on South Union Avenue. Go in there and you can talk to Aaron Joseph or any of the qualified people at Horizon Audio. And now let's take a brief break here for a word from our sponsors. And welcome back to the best doggone podcast in the land with Ethan and Heather. We are here with the one and only Mekka Don. Thank you so much again for being with us and for all of your time. We sincerely appreciate it. This has been so enlightening. Now, you got that law job, and you were just talking about the money and the things like that. Has your perspective changed because now you do have fame? You're known everywhere. How is that framed or changed your life at all?
It's so interesting because, most people I think who play Ohio State football, the kind of peak of their fame, so to speak, is when they're in college, or if they go to the NFL, right? And then a few years after college, and then that's kind of the peak. For me, it's been different. I wasn't really known. I was on the team, but I wasn't really known outside of just nut Ohio State fans, right? And my kind of peak is now, right? I think people know me more now than ever before, and so it's been very interesting, just to kind of have that type of journey, and I think that my perspective on kind of fame, so to speak, has changed over time. I think when I was younger, I really wanted to be, known for being on stage and, kind of doing my thing. And I don't think I really realized like some of the, pitfalls that come with kind of fame or notoriety, right? And and I thank God at times that I didn't achieve this level of success that I probably wanted to as early as I did, because there are a lot of things that I just didn't know, in terms of, how people treat you and, how people try to set you up or, get to your money or whatever it is, or, just a lot of fake people in the industry, especially the entertainment industry. those different types of things. And, and then obviously social media, right? And the mistakes that you can make when you're a young person and how those things, or an older person, and how those things can kind of, carry on with you for a long period of time. So, it's been an interesting thing to kind of navigate. And again, I'm not saying I'm like, some Denzel Washington or something like that, but it's been an interesting thing to navigate. But there's also responsibility that I think that comes with it. And particularly now, because as you mentioned, being a husband, being a father, being a mentor for a lot of young kids, being mentors for Ohio State football players, for, a lot of people that are kind of watching. I think that, how I navigate this and how I navigate situations is something that I think about constantly. I'm making, I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for my family. I'm speaking for, what I represent, Buckeye Nation in some instances, or and so it really informs kind of how I answer questions. It informs what I speak about on social media. There's certain jokes that I don't tell because I'm just like, I don't know, and I also want to make sure I keep.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
different times now.
It
yeah,
is. Social media has changed the landscape so much. And I always wonder, and I guess from a media perspective, I'm like, why? Why are there not people monitoring this better? And maybe they're there and players don't take up for that. But it's like, that seems like, what is it? The NFL will have like the rookie symposium and they'll talk to them about business and so on. The social media, if they don't already do it, I was surely would hope they should, and they should have people available or hire them to navigate this, because it's so crazy. The things you say today or yesterday can come back to bite you down the road, and you really have to choose your words carefully, even when you're passionate at the moment.
they do. And so here's the hard thing. The hard thing is that, you know, you don't want to, because social media is like a very intricately woven part of society. It's like intricately woven to society now. It's hard to like take them out of it, right? It's like doesn't feel fair, right? So you can put restrictions around it and give them all the advice and as you say the stuff symposiums that they get, but ultimately you know people are human beings and they want to interact with other human beings, and sometimes people are gonna make mistakes. And sometimes people are gonna say stuff that they wish they didn't say, or they're gonna respond to somebody in a certain way, or they're gonna just express themselves in a way that maybe out of frustration or something like that. And you see that, and then they'll and so that's the thing that's scary about it, though, is that people are ready to jump on you. People are screen. You say something, one thing, people are screenshotting it. They're podcasting about it. They're amplifying it. And so you have to really, really educate these kids. And Ohio State has done a really good job of that. And you can see like a lot. We have one of the things that I loved about this team. Sorry, it always comes back to Ohio State football for me.
Hey, come on. We love that. We love our Buckeyes.
One of the things that I really loved about this past year's team was the character, the quality of character of the guys on the team. I mean, like almost person to person, it was exceptional, and it's very unusual to see a team that's that close, that tight, that faithful, that respectful, and that good all together. Like normally, there's one of those things is going to be missing, and so I really think this team is going to go down as a result of that. I think this team is going to go down as one of the most special teams that we've ever seen. You look at the guys, JTT, Denzel Burke, Lathan Ransom. I mean, these guys, Jack Sawyer, these are like A+ humans. I'm not even talking about, Will Howard. I'm not even just talking about like great football players. These are like A+ humans. The stuff they do in the community, how they speak, how they represent the university, how they handle themselves on social media. I mean, Denzel Burke, for example, went through it. People were attacking it crazy. And Denzel Burke, held it down, and he fought through it, and he, continued to believe in himself and didn't let those things get him down. And he came out, now he's in the NFL. So Ohio State has done an exceptional job. And this isn't just me being a homer. This is me like understanding the landscape. You look at Georgia; they got kids getting in trouble every week. And so it's not
It's a culture. It's a culture problem, though, because it does start at the top. And Mekka, what I noticed about this team is that they were so unapologetic about it. They were so, we are faithful. We are, we love God. We pray. We're not going to apologize for this. We're not hurting anybody. You know, we are all about the brotherhood. We're all about love, and you can say whatever you want. We're standing on our business.
100%. And Travion and Mekka, I mean, there's so many guys we can name, and it's but they really fought for each other. And even when you watch the playoffs, man, it's just, you knew that there was a team that was just fighting for each other, right?
Yeah.
And I remember going into so I don't know if you guys know this, but I did a podcast like a day before, no, 4 days before the playoffs started, and I predicted every single game.
You did. You did.
That we were going to play Notre Dame and beat Notre Dame by 10 to 14 points. And what ended up happening was, after we beat Oregon, I started to get a little bit nervous about the Texas. And I went to the Texas game and the national game. And I was a little nervous about going into the Texas game, because I was thinking, gosh, this game seems like a setup, right? The game was in Texas, right? Yeah, I mean, there was a pretty much home field advantage.
Well, you thought. We showed out, though.
Yeah, we did.
It always does.
Yeah.
For sure. And then also you start thinking, well, we just dominated the number one team in the country. Is there going to be a letdown? Is there going to be some, just natural kind of like arrogance that comes with that? But then, as I was like, around the team and just analyzing more, I was like, wait, no, this team is so locked in. They know the only way this team is going to matter is if they win the national title. They knew it. They knew it. They believed that. And so they were excited, happy they beat Oregon, all that type of stuff. But they were not anywhere close to satisfied. They were not feeling themselves. They knew that the job wasn't done. And so, but before the game started, all the jitters that I had kind of about that game went away really quickly. And it just felt like it was a team destiny. Yeah, it felt like it was a team destiny. I was really excited for those guys.
Well, let me ask you this. Two questions here. Yeah. One is, so when you were working at the law firm, what area of law were you working in?
So good question. So when I was coming out of law school, I had the option to go to a firm. So the firm that I went to, it was called Wild, Gotcha and Manches. And what they were actually known for initially, well, the reason why I wanted to go there is because they had an attorney there named Jeffrey Kessler. I believe he was there. Who was an NFLPA kind of guy. He's the main dude. But he ended up leaving and going to another firm called Dewey Valentine at that time. And I ended up getting an offer from that firm as well. And I wanted to kind of go and kind of follow him. But what I realized was that, I liked the culture better at the original firm. So I decided to go there. And so I was in a litigation department, IP litigation. So like copyright. And then I ended up doing some music license cases, which was just amazing for me, because it's like, I've taken some of those lessons and used them with my music licensing deals with Ohio State, and HBO, all that type of stuff too. So, so that was amazing just to get that experience and learn that high level.
That is, and you know what? We got one of our episodes got blocked in Russia because I played the sound effect from Star Wars, the Emperor's thing, do 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 do. YouTube, but it got blocked in Russia. Okay, this
Wow.
Oh boy!
I don't want to keep you too long here. We're coming close to an hour.
We are.
Yeah. So Mekka, I wanted to let's close it out with just talking about, just really quickly, tell us again about your book. So I want to preface this with, again, the fact that your book. So it is Buckle Up, the Playbook, 5 winning plays for go-getters. What I think, again, for lack of a better word, I know I use this a lot, but what resonated most was, again, it's written by someone who did the work. It's not written by someone who was born into this. It's not written by, I'm not going to mention, some of the more famous people who were born with silver spoons in their mouth, but it's written by somebody who, you did the work. Yeah. All of these things that you talk about, you lived it. And you've proven that it's successful. So again, I think that makes it so much more relatable. So again, I have it on, for those that are watching on my page, I put the link in the post. I'll repost it again with the link in my bio. And I will put the link for these shirts, because I'm actually not even kidding. I got this when they first came out, and I would like to be buried in this thing. It is like wearing a cloud. So, so Mekka, just tell us again a little bit about the book, about the Buckle Up merchandise, about the Buckle Up song. You know, let's get that out here, because you're just the entrepreneurial, you know, spirit that you have. You're thinking of it, but you're doing it, and I think that is what a lot of people lack.
Well,
Yep.
thank you. And I've wanted to put out a book for a while. I actually wrote a fiction novel when I was 20 years old that I put
Oh,
out self-published long time ago. And since then I've always wanted to do it again, but I wanted to do it when the timing felt right, and when I felt like I had something to say, right? And
Mhm.
he mentioned this, the book is short, and it's short on purpose, because I feel like the points that I was getting at, I don't need to go and keep going over and over and over again, right? It's like, let's get to the point, and I think you can get those. But those lessons were so important for me. And as I started to look at, like, because people ask me these questions all the time, well, how did you do this, and why did this happen, and how did this happen?
Yeah.
And it forced me to actually think about answers and make sure that I wasn't just giving just run of the mill answers, that I was actually giving very thoughtful answers. And I realized that there's certain things that again, I don't think of myself as just some, like, special person, right? I don't think of myself that way. I think of myself as just kind of a hardworking person who happens to be good at certain things. But I realized that there are people who look at me and they think, wow, you're such a person. And so I feel like, what, let me share some of the tips that have helped me do some of the things that I think other people want to do. Get out of I've fought a lot of the same battles that everyone else is fighting, working somewhere you didn't want to work, not feeling like you're fulfilling your destiny, not feeling like you're being respected, not sure
Yep.
that society is seeing you what they should see you for, being rejected at different turns. I've dealt with all that. And so and have overcome it to a certain degree, but at the same time, it's a lifelong journey. You don't just overcome and then you just overcome. You have to keep fighting, right? And so these are some of the things that I've actually learned to help me kind of get over certain humps, but then also things that have helped me continue to keep fighting this lifelong journey. And so the book for me was just something that I felt like was important. And the response has been unbelievable. Again, Gene Smith did the forward for it, which was a great sign for me early on, because Gene Smith isn't just going to put his name on anything, right? And he did a wonderful forward for it, and the response has been amazing. So yes, definitely get that from Amazon. I have autographed copies on my website, shop.mekadonmusic.com. And then the Buckle Up, the Soundtrack of Champions documentary, that's on my YouTube, youtube.com/Mekadon Music.
Okay.
Yeah,
So good.
it is to me one of my most proud pieces of work, given the first of all, just the quality of it, but also the people that are involved. I mean, you're going to see Jelly Meyer in there, you're going to see Urban Meyer, Chris Carter, you're going to
Yep.
see Lathan Ransom, Denzel Burke, Curtis Graham, the Post. I mean, the list goes on and on. And it also gave me a chance to tell my story, but also to tell kind of the story of the season. And there really aren't a lot of probably isn't any other documentary out there that's really kind of telling that story. So you're going to see footage from the season, you're going to see thoughts from players that were on the team and stuff like that too. I mean, I think it's just amazing that I was able to capture that as well. And then we also have merchandise on my YouTube as well that you can get from Buckle Up merchandise as well. So I appreciate you guys. I really don't take this type of stuff for granted. I think that every opportunity is a blessing, and you guys do great work, obviously, and have a following, and you guys are my type of people, Buckeyes fans and Browns fans. So I
Yep.
appreciate
Sure.
you guys having me on. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
thank you for that. We do appreciate it. Okay, now, first of all, I will tell folks, go on. As Heather said, she's got in her bio, she's got the link to, for the book and all of that, that all the merchandise you're selling. You can download this book through Amazon to your Kindle. Even if you don't have a Kindle, I downloaded the app, I loaded it onto my Mac, I read it. It was fantastic. It has a workbook to it. It gives you things to do. It makes you do the work to try and say, this is where I want to be. How can I get there? Let me try and make a practical, a playbook to get to where I want to be.
Yeah.
The way I felt after I finished it was it took away the poor me and it gave me the why not me. So
Mhm.
I think that's where it flips, and you don't even realize it does. It's just kind of one of those things where I call it, you learn by accident. And that was one of those things where you didn't know what you were getting into when you read it, and you were, even incrementally changed, because you're like, this
I
is
love
not, yeah, this is not monumental. It's little steps.
And
I
that's it.
start
Just
here.
yeah,
Yeah.
and embracing our power, I think is one of the things that we're so sometimes scared to do, right? And I think that that's part of what I'm also trying to get people is kind of the motivation to kind of embrace the power that we all have
Yep.
internally, and also like you mentioned, Ethan, and giving people actionable things to do. I think that's another thing that you see from these books. Sometimes they might tell you give you kind of some thoughts, but they don't necessarily say, okay, what do you do? So literally at the end of each play, I'm saying, all right, go do this. These are the things that
Yes.
you can do to kind of put this play into motion. I think that's been helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Mike over in the UK said, we need another soundtrack, make it back to back here since you are 2 for 2. All right, just real quickly, because I think we would be remiss if we didn't get your thoughts on this. You're seeing some practices. What are your thoughts about the Buckeyes this season? Brian Hartline takes over, my man from Glenoak, Glen Oak, and Matt Patricia at the DC.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts about where this team can go this season and how they recover, having seen so many people go to the NFL?
Yeah. Wow. So I'll start with this. I went to obviously a few spring practices, went to pro day, got to sit and talk with some guys, some players and coaches, and been talking to those guys pretty much all off season. One of the things that I was looking for in spring ball was I wanted to see what the energy was like. I wanted to see what the juice, so to speak, was like. And and I wanted to see it for myself, and then I also wanted to get kind of the perspective from some of the players. So, I talked to Tony Styles and Davidson, Igmanos, and some of the leaders that are coming back. And one of the things that they had told me early on was that spring practice full of juice. Guys were flying around. Guys were, nobody was acting like they were just national champions, right? And that's the thing that you're always scared of, right? It's kind of like guys, let down, guys kind of feeling themselves a little bit, not working as hard. Nah, it was the opposite. And in fact, there are guys, a lot of the guys that came back, Sonny, Davison, some of the important guys are guys that still have chips on their shoulder, right? Because they feel like maybe they weren't respected the same way. They weren't on, maybe people, talk badly about them or whatever. They still have things to prove. That's number one. Then you have a bunch of guys who were waiting in the wing who were, yes, they were on the national championship team, but didn't really truly contribute. So they still have names that they need to make for themselves, right? That they're fighting for, and a few new starters that, have been chomping at the bit, but putting in the work. So I was really excited to see that in the spring, and then summer conditioning, went well, right? Guys stayed relatively healthy, and then Matt Patricia. I think our defense is going to be nasty. Oh, I'm so excited for our defense. I know a lot of people look at him from the Lions and they kind of have this bad taste in their mouth, but he is bought in. He's locked in. The guys love him. He is a exceptional defensive mind. I don't care what you think about anything else that he's done. He is going to bring some juice. We're going to see some stuff that we hadn't seen before from him. He's going to be aggressive where we need to be. We have big linebackers. We got great secondary. We got great ends. I think we have some surprising players at defensive tackle. Hopefully, Edric is okay. I think Will Smith Jr. is going to play.
They said he's okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they said it was. Yeah, they said it wasn't anything serious. Trust me, I was like on watch. I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
And so after DeJuan Jones got carted off, and
he did. I was actually there.
Yeah. Because
it was hot. It was as hot as the
related. Okay, I digress.
Yeah.
I'll let you go back.
No. And so I'm super excited for our defense. Offensively, I'm also very super excited. I think, interestingly, I think there's a real battle for the QB spot. I think that everyone thinks it's going to be Julian. I think that I've thought that it was going to be him, but I do think Ryan Day is the type of person that will say, "Listen, man." You're gonna have to get out there and earn it, And so Lincoln is pushing. Lincoln is a really, really talented player. I would feel very comfortable, by the way, if Lincoln was our quarterback. Whoever is our quarterback, I'll feel very comfortable just to say that. And then obviously our wide receiver, we know that our offensive line is going to be amazing. James Peoples, a lot of people are saying he's like J.K. Dobbins 2.0, and we have some depth there as well. So I mean, this team is going to be nasty, and they have a chip on their shoulder. I don't think that you hear the stories and the reports of Caleb Downs and other guys saying, "Listen, we don't want to talk about this back-to-back stuff. This isn't back-to-back. We're not the same team." that let the fans talk about that. We don't do that talk around here. So
First, yeah.
yeah, and so I think they have the right attitude. I think they have the right leadership. I think they have the right chip on their shoulder. And yeah, and then obviously we have the talent. So I expect big things from this team this season. I don't expect a letdown, which is crazy when you talk about losing 15, 16, 17 guys when you talk about free agents to the NFL. But this team is going to be nice, man, and I'm so I'm so excited.
I was gonna say that, like, book it. Tate's gonna have a big year because
Oh,
Jeremiah Smith isn't a secret anymore. Not that he was halfway through the year last year, but he was a freshman. They didn't have film on him. He's gonna get the best corners. He's gonna get doubled. I think that Tate, and actually, I might be going out on a limb, but I think Innis.
yeah, I think
I look to get him. I think he's going to get a little bit more involved. Look, we could talk about this. You know what we'll have to do, Mecca? We'll have to have you on for like
Yes.
a 15-minute segment when
Let's
we
do it.
do when we do the preview.
Let's
Let's close this out because we've kept you a while,
Yes.
and I know that I wanted to say check out the documentary because the last thing that I noticed with that documentary is I think what made it so good was that you were capturing magic and you didn't realize you were capturing magic. So it had that real, raw, unscripted feel to it. So anybody that's an Ohio State fan, anybody that's a football fan, anybody that is a fan of just success, take a look at it because you were capturing magic and you had no idea that you had lightning in a bottle when you were doing it. So it had that feel of authenticity.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. And thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited about it, about everything, and excited about the season. I'd love to get back and talk some more about
This is an open door. You come back anytime. We would love to have you on. Talk about
Ohio State. We're ready. Let's go.
Well, no, wait a second, Heather. We can't just limit ourselves here. We could talk Ohio State. We could talk the Brownies. We could talk whatever.
I want to talk about misery. I want to talk about winners.
Oh,
Let's talk Ohio State. I love the Browns. Listen, like I'm Greg Newsome is like my bestie now, and I love the Browns, but I want to talk about winners.
I know, but you got to turn that frown upside down, Heather. Come on now.
It's not going to break my heart.
Okay. All right, I get it. But no, all right. Now wait a second, Mecca. I'm not going to trip you up here too much. Last thing.
Oh, geez.
No. It's all good. Now you're partners with Chris Carter.
Yeah. Yep.
Chris Carter or Jeremiah Smith, or Jackson Smith and Jigba or Garrett Wilson.
Right now, I'm still going with Chris Carter.
Okay.
But I think Jeremiah, if there is one guy that I think, I will say, wow, that person has the potential to be better than him.
He's a freak. He's a freak. He was born for it.
He was. And I'll be going to practice here in camp here pretty soon, the next week or two, and checking some stuff out too. So when I come back next time and talk with you guys, I'll have a little bit more insight.
That will be absolutely amazing. We welcome it and look forward to it. This has been such a pleasure. We thank you so much for all of your valuable time. I know that people need to go out there and get your book. They need to watch the documentary, not just people who are Buckeye fans. At least the book part. Read the book because it really resonates with anybody who's trying to figure out what they're doing in life and how to reach their goals. So it is fantastic. So Mecca, thank you so much for being on with us. We truly, truly appreciate it. Heather, any final words?
No, just thank you so much. This was really enlightening, and it's nice to see the man behind the player, behind the entrepreneur, the man behind everything. So everybody go follow him, please go follow, and I will put all of the information out on my page, and we'd love to have you back. So thank you very much, and go Bucks.
Thanks, guys. Go Bucks.
Yes, go Bucks. Thank you very much. So that is going to do it here for another edition of the Best Doggone Podcast in the Land with Ethan and Heather and our special guest, Mekka. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Also, check out all the other great programs on the Fanatical Elves Network, a subsidiary of Fan First Sports Network. And you can find our podcast on all of your favorite podcast platforms. And so thank you very much. And yes, buckle up. And with that, I think we should close it out the way we started. And now let us buckle up. And good night, everybody. Thank you very much, Mekka and Heather.
Mekka, Dawg, Buckeye Nation. It's time.
D-Buds, you beat me.
Buckle up, buckle up. We going for a ride. Knuckle up, knuckle up. It's time for a fight. Buckle up, buckle up. This time it's mine. Buckle up, buckle up. Oh, we outside. Going to the top. Going to the top. Going to the top. Going to the top. Going to the